Have you been told tactics is the only way to win? Is being a cunt and get not what appeases you? Well, welcome to WAAAGH Tactics. Today we're going to talk about the war horde and the proper way to war. Or, as some would say, the traditional way. As we can see, War Horde has been making a rise again this last weekend. Doesn't mean Tactical Brigade hasn't made an appearance. Of course, we'll also be showing some lists from the actual 8-man teams events as well, because that's always exciting. So, of course, um, like always, let's give a shout out to today's sponsor, the Baron of Dice. The Baron of Dice have allowed us to do our paint competition and allow us to support the community and the community to support us. So thank you very much to everybody who's been involved in that. It means a lot. I love the quality of this dice, and they take you long ways to getting stuck in. Also, shout out to our newest sponsor, Forge Fire Gaming. This terrain is found primarily in some Midwest events. Very nice official GW-esque style terrain where these actual terrain pieces fit slotted into the bases. This is what I play at home. This is what I play when I go to my local store. This is what I'm most familiar with personally, and I think it's good for any of you gets that are getting stuck in and want some proper terrain at home. Good mobility and ability to get it stuck in. So, of course, check out Forge Fire Gaming. And of course, let's get into it with the stats and the facts. So the Orks are sitting at a 51% win rate with 42 players over the weekend. 5 of those players were Bully Boys, 16 of them are War Horde, 13 of them were Tactical Brigade, 6 Dread Mob Fanatics, and then 2 Green Tide Gits. So Bully Boys is winning at a 60% win rate, but no X and ones performances. You can presume maybe it was like a bunch of RTT performances, which is what I like for Bully Boys a lot of the time too. Nice fast games, good pressure. It feels good for people who want to play Elite Orks and just get a good weekend in. Then we have War Horde that is really holding a lot of those stats. They actually have 1 event win. So again, War Horde sticking it to the man with saying, hey, the way that we've been doing it since 8th edition is the way we're going to stay doing it. 4 of those players getting X and 1. Then we have Tactical Brigade that shows no performances. We do have some people that ended up getting like ties and such, so we'll show those off when we show successful WAAAGHs. And of course, some of those players were actually at the teams event, so we'll still show off some Tactical Brigade lists for any of you guys that are still curious. Then we have Dread Mob sitting at a 47% win rate. I always say that that's the swingy Mimi detachment where it can go either way. You can either get some crazy performances or some gets that are taking stomp on losing all their games. And whoa to the chat, 7 out of 7. I like your picture of your little cat face. So I think Orks are doing well. Of course, I will entertain any of these conversations about what's been leaked and shown off to the UGITs. But right now, we're going to stick to what we know. So what we do know is some other successful walls. So we have Justin Moore at Clutch City going 4-1-1. Stefan Love going 3-0-2. Now, I'll tell you that this was at the ITC scoring system. So a lot of ties. It's only out of 20 points. So he went 10-10. He really close games for you to actually get ties there. I was a little bit surprised. So shout out to you in the Discord. Then we have Felix Madison going 3-1-1. Vincent Stein going at the super major in Manchester going 4-1, and then Philip with the War Horde. Sorry, I should have said the detachment these guys all were. We had 2 War Hordes, and then 3 of these guys were Tactical Brigade. And then Philip Statsinger with 3-1-1 with his Tactical Brigade. So shout out to you guys and your successful WAAAGHs. Love to see it. A lot of these gifts were running some variation of big mechs with shock attack guns, war bosses, maybe some beast bosses. For example, instead of Breaker Boys, some Breaker Boys were thrown in here. It's kind of like the same thing we've been seeing over the weekends. Multiple trucks, some people running gas, some not. Overall, some good lists. I believe one of these guys was running a mob of boys. I love to see that. It was a lot what we've been seeing, but a lot of people have been hearing that we're going to get the points, the data slate coming here soon. So the list that we're kind of heavy on the Breaker Boys and the shock attack guns, I think we've seen a good amount of those and a lot of trucks. You guys know what's going on with that. So today we're going to get with some stuff that I found a little interesting yet fun, yet what we're kind of used to. And we can kind of compare this to what we're familiar with and what we're possibly going to see with these point changes. But we do have Alberto Nicolas at the Clutch City going 6-0. So he did take a good old War Horde. He showed off right here. going 6-0. He had 4 100s, and then 2 of his other scores were 92 and 93. So my point was putting them points up. This is in Texas, in the U.S. It was 156 players, ITC ranking scoring, such like that. So really big performance. Great work. So let's take a look at this Gits list. We haven't really seen Alberto before, so shout out to you, homie. So Ward. We kicking it back to Warhorde, guys. I freaking love this detachment, even though I will say that when the Codex was coming out and we were talking about rules, this is kind of what we've been playing since 8th edition almost, but it just works. It just works. So we have a solo basic baby mech, 2 war bosses, and then a war boss in mega armor. I really like to see that a lot of these Warhorde lists have given up on these big long list of characters now. Some people really do love Hero Hammer. We're going to talk about some Hero Hammer later today. But when I'm playing Warhorde, you just kind of like want a lot of stuff because everything hits substantially better. You can get good value out of it for stratagems, threat saturation, board presence. You don't have shooting, so you need more stuff. Not reliable, consistent shooting. In this case, he did take some shooting, which is what we've always recommended in Warhorde, that you do need to participate in that phase. And when you are participating in the phase and you don't have buff towards it, it means it's not really consistent, kind of ineffective. Therefore, you still want a lot of stuff. So light characters and Follow Me Lads is awesome. Something that's not common is the War Boss in Mega Armor. I do have a theory for this. Now, I'll talk about that when we go through the list a little bit more, right? So 3 trucks, 1 battle wagon with all the fixins. He did have a hard case, and he did have a cannon. 1 Mega Nob unit, a brick, just 5 mans, with a kill saw and power claw, so they can choose based off what target they're going into. 3 breaker boys, of course, the tank hammers. We're going to see if these guys go up in points. I do not think they need to go up in points, even though GW might do that. I think it's just that other stuff is kind of cheap, so you can still fit them on there. I think they themselves are like right where they need to be. So if they go up, we'll see what Ork players react with that. 2 5-man unit of flash kits. I hope GW doesn't go out of its way to nerf these guys, start hitting them with points increases. I'd love if they stayed where they're at. 2 5-mans feel good on a lot of different lists. They bring a little bit of shooting. They can pop that lethals once per game. They get good strength on the wall, good strength outside of the wall in combat. Good volume of attacks for punching and combined arms. They fit good in SWAT teams and trucks. Or flash kits just do a lot for you. They feel good with their 4-up armor. Great little knob bodies. They don't actually have the knob keyword. 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, 2 minimum size unit of Storm Boys. It feels like that section, 2 flash kits, 2 Storm Boys, 2 Grats is what looks like a lot of my lists. Like a lot of lists just kind of get that formatted almost into it. And a lot of lists we look at get that as well. Then 3 Tank Buster units. So this list is, similar to what we've been seeing. Some things here they're changed based off not as many trucks. We still get to see the battle wagon. The real interesting things here are the Mega Nobz. The low character count is somewhat interesting, and then the solo mech. Now, my theory is solo mech has been used for either using your tank busters to simply shoot out of a truck. I imagine that 2 tank buster units are in 1 truck, for example, if someone wanted to do this, and you could just tag it with the mech, and then you get 10 D3 shots with just tipping your truck out. Now that truck becomes highly vulnerable, but because it's 2 units, there's a good chance they can disembark into safety as well if you just peek safely. If you don't, you put flash kits in there and then a tank buster, and it still works nicely. Or people like to use their battle wagon with +1 to hit. That way, 1, it's better in combat because it does have respectable punching, but if you can actually get it to reliably land and then also have sustain because it ends up hitting on 2 in combat, that feels great when the battle wagon goes to get into a fight. But right before it gets in the fight, it can start letting some Daka rain. So a lot of the time, people just do actually appreciate taking a battle wagon and a solo mech. Solo mech does secondaries. Solo mech will make your battle wagon better at skirmishing, and it allows your trucks to kind of take advantage of their firing deck. So it does take a cunning get because most people would rather just take a different character like a weird boy and pay the point difference. But I've been seeing this more and more, and I appreciate it. Really, Tactical Brigade is what got me to start doing this, and Dread Mob, where I would bring, solo characters to do certain things, and people bringing in War Horde is really just so that their trucks can, one, keep their assets safe while they're still bunkered inside of it, but I might need to pop out and get some dock off on the nurglings that are in the way, right? So the truck helps you do that, and the solo mech does that. So I like that they're incorporating more guns and more DACA. 2 war bosses, we go back and forth about this. Do Breaker Boys need a war boss? Some people will argue in War Horde you don't need them because they already get sustains. In my opinion, they have such a low amount of punches. There's a lot of defensive stress in 40k. There's a lot of 4-up invulns in 40k. Things can happen on spikes. Therefore, the greater the better. I'd rather have more reliable hits hitting on 2s, kind of offset any -1 hits that might be existent in my opponents, and then just bring the the war boss, power claw attacks to kind of clean up any leftover damage, or could even go first for any like weird ablative wounds that the hammers don't really want to hit clean. So that actually want to hit clean, excuse me. So I'm in favor of, you don't have to tag it to every single unit, but I'm in favor of at least one of my Breaker Boy units, maybe 2, and having a war boss, and so is he. Now, the war boss and mega armor, what's the point here instead of gas, right? You want more stuff. A lot of people have been taking more stuff, but why the war boss and mega armor with mega Nobz and not simply going for Nobz? I think people are just kind of finding that Nobz aren't really hitting that value in kills like where we want them to be. They aren't really hitting durability that we really want them to be. They get kind of really caught between enemy counterattacks, enemy overwatches, and you already have Breaker Boys, right? You're already looking at kind of soft, squishy, hard hitting, somewhat glass cannons. Now I do know Nobz can be given artist nails, and then they have Nobz -1 hit already, so they can really get a bit more durable than people expect, but they're still simply 4-up armor saves, 5-up invul on the wall, and 2 wounds. A lot of people have stuff that can kill that, no problem. Therefore, the mega Nobz actually give you that option that, one, if you're going into combat with your Breaker Boys and you're going to activate them first, there's a chance that your mega Nobz will just tank the enemy interrupt, and that becomes value in itself. Because you're not just simply always looking at, oh man, as soon as I activate one thing in this melee matchup that I'm losing one of my assets and then I have to fight on death. How about you tank it and then maybe a different unit fights on death and the mega Nobz still tank the punch? Because remember, you have multiple Breaker Boys here, so maybe one Breaker Boy is getting activated first, one's fighting on death, and your mega Nobz are tanking the punch that they have to. Or they're really just meant to kind of hold something there. Maybe you can't really kill everything on 40k sometimes. There might be a chance that something like a mega Nob hurts it, holds it there for a turn, and then the following turn you kind of clean it up with whatever you have left over. Maybe you got to get closer with tank busters, drop some bomb squigs on it, for example, right? So there are reasons why having some actual saves, some feel no pains could feel pretty good. And I'm totally not against the war boss and mega armor and the mega Nobz on this list, not simply because he won it, but this is something that I've been finding over and over and warning Ork players against, that when you go for all damage, you are susceptible to enemies actually have a say in what happens when you try to get that damage off in the combat phase. Mega Nobz make it so that you have a little bit more options, in my opinion, than simply Nobz, because you do have the kill saws. The kill saws bring more AP, and then they bring a little bit more damage, strength. That way you can actually get more wounds through on your opponents and have more options that you can actually hit these mega Nobz with, instead of Nobz where they're really on the wall to hit elite infantry or like weak armor. You can run into good armor with your mega Nobz, toughness 11, maybe even toughness 12 units, and even if you don't kill them, you chip them off pretty well, like I said, for a tank buster to follow up, or something like that to help finish it off, or assist. So that's where I'm thinking the mega Nobz come into play, and I'm really here for it. So let's look at his path to victory, because my get went crazy here with 4 100s and 2 90s going in the chat. Yeah, pretty beefy. I liked what his list brought. Good mix of damage and multiple units. So what are you boys in chat? Question: do you prefer War Horde, Breaker Nobz, or Boss and Breaker? In War Horde, I think having a mix actually feels what's best for me, because on the WAAAGH, I'm always expecting like someone to one person really wants to get off and get activated first. Having 2 of something feels pretty good, so usually it's like 2 Breaker Boys and then a Nob, or 1 Breaker Boy and 2 Nobz. I don't think you need to always do all 3. You just see people do that at the highest level because they're trying to get fat scores like Alberto did, where he's just like, hopefully I get what I need to get and just crank you. So then that's what he did, right? He just started crumping. So let's take a look at his path to victory because I want to see what we're wrecking out here. So we have the Leagues of Voltan. If I start getting a weird voice when I do Leagues of Voltan, it's because I like to give them a little bit of an accent. You know what I'm saying? So we have a Brokmir Iron Master, followed by an Einhir Champion, 2 units of Hearthkin Warriors, 5 individual Sagittars. Okay, I see what you're doing here. 3 units of the Berserkers, followed by 1 Thunderkin. And then I think this is a small, 1 small unit of Hearthguard, which is like their version of Terminators. And then 2 Pioneer units with only 3 bikes, with 1 big Pioneer unit, followed by 1 unit of Jaegers. So yeah, he meant it when he said MSU. What happens here is these Sagittars are kind of like our versions of Chucks, but they're quite tough with their T10 and a little bit more wounds, I believe, too. Good anti-armor guns for the most part for a transport. Really, you split these warriors can split into 5 mans, and then a bunch of these little hammer dudes can jump in there as well, and they have feel no pains. They have mold launchers, so they can actually hit you and kind of slow your movement down. You got to be wary of that. Also, Leagues of Voltan is one of those armies where you're like, man, I really wish I had strength 5 and 6 regularly at my disposal because their infantry sits at a lot of 5, T5, T6, and their transport at T10, for example. Now, is this one of the lists that you feel really good when you're going into where you're having just all damage like Breaker Boys and Tank Busters? Yes. Now, it does kind of go down to what is your target prioritization. In this case, it's always important that you take down these Hearthguard at some point. They can kind of set off. They're like their best combined arms versatility unit because they can get sustain and their punches and all that's good stuff. But in reality, these guys want to go first in the Orc matchup. Where they allocate their grudgeons is a big deal. And the fact that you have all these, we have multiple trucks and then a wagon means typically they're going to be like truck, wagon. And then they just don't get like value out of that because they just have to pop a truck, and then if you don't really kill anything, they don't get a good grudge on that. If you throw something stupid up the field like Grots or 5-man unit of flash kits to go kind of interact with their Jaegers, it's like cool. But a lot of the time it's just gas on these guys because what they want to do is scout, make a wall of just Sagittar, and then there's MSU skirmish units, and then drop down with their Terminators and maybe some Bikers and lay into you. In my opinion, they simply don't have the damage output in that same way, especially once you start tagging all their trucks. They do have like cool durability, but I have a feeling that he went first and he just kind of ran through this dude. But honestly, he ran through over everybody at this event. So I'd like to know like what his ratio of going first was. I know that there are benefits to going second depending on the mission, but just like how this list is kind of set up with no infiltration, no scouting, it's just like all go. It makes me just interested in like how often did he actually just go first and really get to go. So then we go into his second matchup, and whoa to the chat. What, the list disappeared? That's some weird warp head works. I have the list. What the list is showing? The opponent's list aren't showing. You guys see the list now? Hope you guys see the list now, right? Let's see. You guys see nothing over here? On my screen. Let me know if you guys see it. Let me see. You guys still see his list? Yeah, right. All right, good. The Sagittars, in case you guys didn't get to see. A bunch of Bikers, Jaegers. Jaegers are cool because they get like reactive moves and such. And they are tough because they're T5 as well, but that's where you're like glad that you have flash kits, in my opinion. We're like, oh, we'll punch them, we'll shoot them, we'll run them down. It's like, oh no. So let's see. Now we go into his second matchup. Oh, sorry, I just clicked my own get. Where it was the Crusher Stampede Tyranids. Let's see. Let me know if you guys in the chat see it now. It should. You guys see it hopefully there. So we have Crusher Stampede. It's called the Triple Double. We are expecting that when you go to events, you're going to see Knights that kind of gatekeeper, and if you're going to see Tyranids, a lot of the time people just see big monsters if they can do it too. So we have the Swarmlord, Gargoyles, Biovores. Here, I'll put it on. It says it keeps vanishing. Do you guys see the Riddles list at least right now? That's weird. And you guys aren't seeing it. Let me know what's going on with that. You guys see it? There's no list here. Biovores, 2 Exocrines, a Lictor, 2 Maliceptors, a Melloc, a Norn Emissary, a Psychophage, Ravener, and then 2 Tyrannofexes, 2 Rupture Cannons. Yeah, they see the War Horde list. Risk reappeared, and that's the wall magic. Yeah, our wall energy is just making BCP hide from all you gets. Do you guys see it now? I put it back on screen again. It should see the tiered list now. Hopefully, you guys should see the tiered list. So 2 Tyrannofexes. Now, Crusher Stampede, Norn Emissary. This is the kind of list on why you do bring triple Breaker Boys. When you in triple Tank Busters, a lot of the time people are looking at what's going well for Orks, and when they're like, man, I'm really tired of triple Breaker Boys, triple Tank Busters. That's all I'm hearing about. Is that the only way to play? No, but if you're going to a very large event, you must understand what's going to be very popular and what's going to be often brought. Because you kind of gauge the field, you gauge your opponents on what you think people are bringing, and then they tend to go enough into that. So you want the tools that really help you dig those enemies into the dirt and really bury them. And when you're going into like a skewed army of Crusher Stampede, where they're all monsters and tough units, and they're really just hoping that you can't meet the stat check and the damage potential, well, in this case you do, because Tyrannofexes don't have great targets other than the wagons. The Maliceptors really want to just stand there in front of you, and they want to hope that you can't kill them in the melee matchup. Typically, Orks do struggle with them, especially when they have access to the Feel No Pain. And this one, they do get a 6-up because of the Psychophage if they're close enough to him, because they're -1 to hit as well. They can be -1 to wound. But all in all, Breaker Boys, Dev Wounds, having multitude, Tank Busters, being able to pop Exocrines, this just becomes a dogging, just really destructive right away. Tell me if you guys see it now, because I took it back on. If I will remove, hold on, I'll stop the screen and pull it back up, because you guys are saying you're not seeing it. What's up, to Snoof Test Snatcher? Whoa! All right. Doop. Are you guys able to see it now? And I reset it. Okay. So we go into his third list. And that's what I'm trying to tell people is, like, we do know that bringing the same thing can feel a little bit boring and redundant as like the casual, as the intermediate, as the new person, whatever it is. But just know when you're going to large events and you know people are bringing like the same redundant big monsters and hard data sheets, and you're going to see knights everywhere, it's almost like you're like, yeah, I'm just bringing it because I know exactly what they're bringing and I'm going to kill them with it. And that's cool. That's what it worked out, at least against Crusher. So now we move to Death Guard Plague Company. Thanks, guys, for telling me that. I was able to fix it. So we have Death Guard, which has been doing quite well. Shout out to Disgusting and Resilient podcast. So we have 2 Biologus Putrefiers, followed by Blightspawn, Tallyman, and then Typhus, followed by 2 big bricks of Plague Marines. Mind you, they can do kind of like what Ork Boys do, where they get 2 characters assigned to them. They get fight first, and then critical 5+. 2 Rhinos, followed by triple Predator Destructors, triple Destral Terminators, and then 3 units of Poxwalkers. Again, we're going into the fact that here's a bunch of 3-wound infantry and a bunch of vehicles. That's pretty much the vast majority of his list. Of course, he does have some Plague Marines because he still needs to like interact and have some OC and have some bodies on the field. But all in all, again, it's like he kind of just read the room, right? Reading the room is, I want to kill a bunch of vehicles, monsters, and a bunch of 3-wound infantry. Well, here you go. I just brought a bunch of 3 damage punches and then a bunch of tank busters for shooting for 3 damage as well. And then anything else in between is pretty much good for chewing up Plague Marines. Mega Nobz do it well, and then they can also withstand their Overwatch because they do have a lot of special weapons that they have decent Overwatch. They're respectable. They get built-in lethal. So in that case, it's like, well, your Breaker Boys don't want to run into that. Your Mega Nobz do. And they don't really mind that, so they'll start crumping them. So that was again, like we said, kind of reading the room. So he put up a 100 there too. When they have the sorcerer, they can reduce damage. That'd be interesting. But then that's where it goes into, like I said, with the boss, right? That's where the war boss goes off, and he could just end up popping off first, kill one probably with volume and hurt another one, and then the Breaker Boys leftover reduced damage can still go through it. Now, of course, you can double reduce damage because you can use a strat, and then you can use a sorcerer. So you can end up making 3 damage, 1 damage. In this case, he didn't have a sorcerer. And that's why you bring redundancy, because you're like, I'm shooting you 3 damage and I'm punching you 3 damage. So I'm not simply saying just because he brought that he auto wins. I'm saying it becomes the tools that it just comes with the tools that you have. And it feels nice, right? Especially when you're going into Death Guard where they're like -1 to hit. If you don't have a War Boss, then your Breaker Boys are missing. Until we go into the 4th game. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they just don't have the volume to miss until like Death Shroud Terminators, for example, have a 4 pinfall. Now we do the Dark Angels. Again, look at this guy's list name is Chonk Walk. I don't even have to know what he does in his list. I know he's bringing the meat. Azrael, 2 librarians, lieutenant. I'm sorry, 1 librarian. I don't know. I said 2. Azrael, 1 librarian, lieutenant, Lionel Johnson. I appreciate that you brought the lion. 2 ballistas dreadnoughts, and then 2 units of Deathwing Knights, a unit of Hellblaster, Inner Circle Companions, 2 Invader ATVs, and then the Thunder Strike. A lot of the time in this Ork kind of matchup that I like to say is kill all their assets first. Definitely go and prioritize their assets. You don't really have to always interact with them Deathwing Knights. We're going to talk about the teams event that we went over this weekend. But there's a game where we're going to talk about on Tactical Tortoises Live, where Stephen Paprine is playing against Dark Angels and they bring Deathwing Knights, and he relatively kind of ignores them and moves around them, interacts with the units that are near them, blocks them off with battle wagons, stuff like that, out OCs them, get them stuck in combats that they can't immediately win in 1 activation, gets them kind of chasing stuff around the field. In this case, you can see he's really character heavy with Lionel, plus the Deathwing, plus all the characters and the Hellblaster. So once you start killing all his activations, even if you can't really kill all of his units, he's not getting enough points in that regard. So 92-point win there. Oh, someone said the list is gone again. Is the list gone again? I will destroy the chaos energy that's trying to interfere with the stream right now, you gets. But thanks for telling me, because pretty much I'll just delete it and then bring it back up. So here we are again. Boom. Hopefully that saved that. All right, cool. So that was his 4th win, the Dark Angels. Now I go into his 5th game. Really exciting. You know that Orks are actually competing and able to just smash through these very elite, tanky, stat checky kind of lists. We weren't able to do that before Tank Busters, before Breaker Boys, and people go, well, why are we always bringing that? Is there another substitute? Is there another answer? Other than our Walkers kind of and Gazgul kind of, we really just lacked that tool. So we're really just witnessing what happens when Orks actually have access to damage 3 and anti-monster 4+. These aren't even outrageous rules. These are rules that most of the rest of the 40K world has, universe has. We just finally got a hold of it, like we just figured something out. So I know there are other armies, like World Eaters, for example, that have a lot of damage too, but we're just kind of seeing what happens when Orks go into a meta that's built for the tools that we were just given, right? So we're giving you tools, and the meta's sitting right there. We're like, I was given a big rocket hammer. Whoa, boom, it just kind of goes with it. So it's not, brain surgery. So we got Blood Angels, Angelic, and Inheritors. So 2 jump pack captains, followed by Commander Dante and the Sanguinor. 2 assault jump pack intercessor squads, an Eradicator, 2 small Eradicator units, 3 Inceptor units. One of them is a big brick with plasma. The other 2 have bolters. 1 big unit of Sanguinary Guard, and then 2 small units of Sanguinary Guard, followed by 2 scout units. Yeah. I do appreciate that he brought so many Sanguinary Guard, right? Some let's go kind of light on that and go for the Death Company. But I mean, Sanguinary Guard kind of don't like Tank Busters either. Don't like, it's just one of those things that I'm not saying, hey, we auto win here, but War Horde automatically we get fight on death. We get good speed mobility with the fact that we can here we go, follow me, lads, stuff like that. The fact that we have trucks for disembarking, and these guys don't have a lot of vehicles to pop those transports. Like, I can't tell you how many times a brick of Inceptors has dropped down on my truck on the wall and not popped it. So it's just of course Eradicators can, but again, they can whiff, and they still have to get close enough to everything's getting picked up in response. So usually Blood Angels, if they're not built right with like enough combined arms, they just kind of get picked up with fight on death and all the other kind of mass threat saturations that we give them, because they're kind of trying to blitz you and just run you over, and we just don't give it to them like that, since we're kind of safe in trucks. So another big dub right there for another 100. Then we go to his last game, and you can see that he just read the room, like Blood Angel, Sanguinary Guard, just smash him. And then this was the one other person who read the room, which was Dominic, who was running GSC. So he kind of understood that the world was going for elite kind of infantry breaks and armor. So he went GSC, which is known for more Horde, more unit heavy. So final day, we have the Abominant, Biophage, Patriarch, Primus, followed by a small unit of hybrids with pistols, another one with flamers, a 20-man brick of hybrids. I like that he brought a brick. Of course, it's coming back. Big truck, followed by a big 10-man unit of Aberrants. So even he teched into having a big brick of units because he's trying to tech against all the enemies, Death Stars, for example. Now, Aberrants are respectable. They get feel no pains. They have their own good, respectable deaths themselves, and the character gets up if you kill him, kind of like a Gilliman style. So you do appreciate, bomb squigs and tank busters into them. Even flash gets into them because they don't have good armor saves, so you can just kind of blitz wounds into them. Followed by 2 Achilles Ridge Runners. These guys are so weak that you don't really have to focus tank busters on them. You can really just punch them out on the wall. Followed by a brick of hybrid metamorphs and then pure strain gene stealers. Then, of course, he has the contingent of allied Tyranids, which I think is pretty sick. So we have Death Leaper, followed by 3 units of Gargoyles. Really nasty move blocking here. I'd love to see how this game played out. I really think our boy went first because a lot of the time these Gargoyles going up, shooting something dumb, and then getting right in your face can be a huge problem for Warhorde because 2 of these big Gargoyle bricks on your wall turn can just stand in your way. It's quite obnoxious. Of course, that's why you bring flash kits. That's why you bring battle wagon. Like we said, that's why you do bring stuff with guns. Like we're looking again at our boy Alberto's list. That's why you do bring some flash kits. That's why you do bring some battle wagon, and then you give the mech for +1 a hit. That's why it can run up and clean up gargoyle units, for example, that might want to get in your way and punch holes, and you can tank shock the gargoyles and then pick them up and then charge through them or charge into them and then swing your unit and then get close enough to the enemy behind it and then pile into it. That's the kind of tricks you have to do when you're going into that much screening. 2 lictors and then a parasite and more checks. So he really brought this just for a bunch of character activations, small low and up activations, and then a bunch of screening. So everything else here is, I guess, to a certain degree, kind of scoring. In my opinion, not that I know this for a fact, I'm thinking our boy went first. And when you go first against Gene Stealers, you put the pedal to the metal. It's not that you can't respect them because he did have a unit of pure strains with the the leader in it, so the Patriarch, so they can scout and run into you and just blast you. But the thing is, if you stay on the back foot and respect them to a certain degree, the Gene Stealers will regen their units, bring them up on the battlefield edge, and then kind of get stuck in your face again. They're willing to trade bodies for points. Therefore, I'm assuming Alberto took a really aggressive approach, put all the trucks at them on the line, understood that they didn't really have good long-range firepower, set up stuff so that if the pure chains did charge a truck, for example, he was able to disembark safely and then end up just kind of picking that unit up and continuing up the field. So love to see that. Shout out to Alberto. Love the Warhorde list with lower character mounts. I appreciate the battle wagon and the solo mech, so you get some DACA on the field, and then triple tank busters. We hope this list holds up to a certain degree with the data slate coming. But with that being said, whoa, to Alberto's undefeated winning list at the Clutch City GT. And yeah, baby, we back, like the little chat saying, we back. Now, we move on. So we move on to Calum Mahay, which is the Manchester 40K Super Major. And this get also brought the award. So I appreciate that. Let's take a look at this list and let's take a look at his path to victory. He ended up getting 54th overall. There's such a big event. I think it's like 300. I mean, I can go through it. Let's see. Do I want to fly back up to the top of this? I might as well because we're here together. Sorry, my mouse got lost. How many players? I want to go back. I think it's like 300. 339 players. So pretty awesome. UKTC. So I didn't have the packy here. I looked for it. I was hoping maybe they linked it. That'd be cool, but I guess that'd be too much advantage. I get it. But I just, we're not too familiar, all of us gets around here, with UKTC and how it plays out. But here goes. But familiar enough. So We'll take a look at his path to victory. He ended up going 4-1. And then after this, we'll take a look at some of the teams lists, because that's always fun to do. So for Caleb's list, we have Sorry, Caleb. We have Boss Snickra. Yes, Boss Snickra making his appearance. You let me know how you feel about Snickra. I still think he's a little bit too many points, but some people just find so much value in him, especially in War Horde, because if you don't bring the guns, then you do need something to kind of get the gun to come closer to you, right? So you kind of need a loan app to go towards your national expansion and be like, bop, all right, I'm over here. I'm continuing to do an action. I'm going to terraform this. I'm going to do a secondary. I'm going to hold this primary. It's like you need somebody to kind of force me closer. That's a lot of time where the lone op thing comes into play. And then, of course, having infiltrators kind of helps too, to deny enemy infiltrators. Now, Beast Boss. Almost nothing besides Gaz himself. Feels as good as a freaking Beast Boss in War Horde, right? You know what I'm saying? Don't need to justify that. A big mech with shock attack gun. Basic mech again. So look at these multiple successful players, different parts of the world. We have a dude in the UK playing on UKTC terrain, and then we have a Git in America winning an event that's running the solo mech as well. So a lot of value in this solo mech and battle wagon combo that we're seeing here again. This has been around since Index Hammer, so don't be surprised. We're just things are getting revived. You know what I'm saying? So we got a War Boss as the Warlord, followed by War Boss in Mega Armor with Follow Me Lads again. Yeah, exactly, our Asylum. The War Boss's Mega Armors are bringing their appearance again. In my opinion, that's just because the Nobz just aren't doing it. Based off how much tough things exist in the meta, a lot of the time you just find like a lackluster target for your Nobz. And if you do find a decent target for them, simply put the Mega Nobz with their Nobz into the same unit. With their Power Claws into the same unit. It's the same profile, so you almost lose nothing, right? And then of course the War Boss and Mega Armor just brings more damage 3. Just more damage 3. One other thing I kind of like is he hits on 2s natively, so when he's -1 to hit, you're just like, cool, I'm still -1 to hit. I mean, I'm still hitting on 2s even with, so you could appreciate that. And then we have the Weird Boy. Weird Boy, of course, he gives you the ability to do secret missions, but a lot of the time people just use him for secondaries. 10 Blades go along with him. Nothing really to scoff at, nothing bad. A lot of people really been finding value in this for a long time, since secret missions came out. 10 Snaggas, 10 basic boys, either with the Weird Boy or without him, because sometimes Weird Boy goes solo, it's fine. A Burner Boy, the Spanner did have a custom Mega Blasta. Don't sleep on the custom Mega Blasta. Then a 5-man unit of Ludas, again with the custom Mega Blasta. 3 Mega Nobz with the twin kill saws. This is because that's the same exact points as it is for 5 Nobz. So in this case, he was literally thinking the 2 bodies of Nobz isn't worth the Feel No Pain and the armor save. I don't like directly disagree. I just haven't experimented enough to know if it's really worth it. But to him it was. And having the kill saws with twin kill saws is worth it. People go, why do you want a twin? Really just think about it as I'm putting 100%. Well, that's obviously not 100%, but you're putting about 92, I think 93% of your wounds through. If you're winning them on 3s and then you're re-rolling them, it's just you want that since you're already hitting on 4s natively, and then you get +1 to hit from the War Boss, and you're such a low volume of punches with your kill saws of only 2 each and then 3 on the wall, that you want to convert all of those hits into wounds. You just really need that conversion so that they have any kind of volume. But he didn't leave the Nob volume on the shelf. He just decided that a 5-man unit wasn't worth it, which is what we go back to the good old-fashioned Scalpel unit. So before we had Breaker Boys, before we had a Codex, we had the Ork Scalpel. And here it is, the 10-man Nob unit. The reason why I nicknamed this the Scalpel is because a lot of the times this is what's running in and just kind of cutting out that problematic enemy unit. A lot of the times it's like a 10-man unit of Nobz, of Terminators or like 8-bound or something like that, where you're just like, I just really have to carve this out with pure volume, in damage 2 and good strength, and there we have it on there. Really good value for all the strats in this detachment. Fighting on death feels awesome in this unit, and of course, Unbridled Carnage feels amazing. And then we have 2 5-man Storm Boys. What really was fun to see is a minimum size unit of Squighog boys. Yes, the Squighog boys again have slipped into the rankings and made their appearance. It's just really how you use it. I think this feels really good as a reserve unit. Bring it in from reserves. It kind of runs up the table and gets to do its thing one time, and then the enemy has to deal with it on the wall where it has an invuln and a feel no pain, and it's at full capacity. If you leave it on the table, a lot of the time it kind of ends up getting damaged, or it's in a weird position where it can't really make its way up the field clean. So it feels good if you know you're not going to play on a dumb layout like 8 or 7, I think 7 or 8 or both, I guess. A lot of the times Squighog boys finds good spots to come in from reserve. Wagon, like I said, with that basic mech, a lot of the time you're just taking advantage of the fact that you get a +1 to hit and then it gets to shoot. Also on the UKTC terrain, the battle wagon always has a safe spot to just simply move up, hide in that little terrain in a little pocket and not get popped from shooting. That means it's really clean for any of your big bricks of death to disembark. Like a 10 unit of Nobz can simply stage up in the middle terrain or the slight offset from the middle and then disembark, run through the enemy, and just crump somebody. So what was the other one here? And I think you could actually put the Mega Nobz and the big Mega Armor in the same truck, battle wagon, and put them in the middle. And I'm curious if Squighog boys are worth it on UKTC terrain. I think maybe because the big staging locations, but typically UKTC terrain has like big long lanes of fire, like crossing lines of fire. So I'm not really sure how he made this Squighog boys work. But I also don't know exactly how he made the Death Dread work, because this is another unit that typically finds good results from coming in from reserve. Now, there's a good chance that this Git was using the battle wagon and the Death Dread together, where he was letting the Death Dreads kind of trail behind the battle wagon and then leaving it close enough so that if the enemy did get aggressive and try to like hold it in, the Death Dread will heroically intervene and then act as like a heroic intervention deterrent. Some people like to do it with Gaz, for example. Doesn't work as good as with infantry because they're vulnerable to getting shot at different angles, hard to get full units in to heroic for them. So the Squighog could be used for that, or the Death Dread, really, where you follow the wagon, the UKTC terrain to its safe spot, make yourself a nice little formation around it, and then you heroic if enemies try to tag and bag your battle wagon. 1 5 unit of flash kids, and then 2 minimum size unit of Gretchen, followed by 1 truck. So let's take a path at this Git's path to victory. So starting off with this first game, we have the creations of Bile. So I'm not like a huge fan of like any form of marine or power armor, but Fabius Bile, single-handedly my favorite character in all of Chaos. No doubt, no question. I had an army in 8th edition. So this army is pretty cool, pretty decent. And I think the rules are consistent for how it's been for a long time, kind of like a War Horde one. So we have Chaos with Jump Lord, Dark Apostle, and then Fabius Bile. So Fabius Bile, he's in a unit. You know, he can give him, they get additional toughness from him being in there, and then overall he gets abilities where he gets to roll off for them, which is like 1 +1 ballistic skill, 1 +1 toughness, and then the other one is +1 attack. And I think he gets a big 2 of those for the army. In his army, he has access to advance and charge, which is kind of annoying. So the army becomes oddly tough. It becomes oddly punchy, which is like an elite infantry version of CSM. So I think it's pretty sick. And then I think he can like blank damage to himself too. He has a bunch of little cool stuff. I actually have his little model too behind me. Oh, he said we cannot see the Fabius Bile list again. No. I will fix that now. You can see my forehead. Let me pull up the Fabius Bile list. What's up, kids? All right, cool. We're back. There we go. We have in the list. No, we have the list. You chill, little Luffy boy. It's because it blanks out sometimes. So we have Cultists, Legionnaires, Big Brick of 10, followed by Chaos Rhino, 2 5-mains of Terminators, a Big Brick of Chosen, 3 minimum size unit Obliterators, 2 minimum size units of Possessed, and then a Raptor unit. So like I said, you get a lot of value from just additional toughness on the Terminators and on the Possessed. Then they get to run up the field to punch, and then Obliterators get to do their Obliterator thing with indirect fire, and their small units start to hit a hold of. I love to see it. Your trucks play a huge factor in this, and I think the battle wagon actually having some guns is a cool factor in this. This is a KG kind of matchup where both people don't really have a lot of guns, and they have to kind of play aggro run at each other and really deal with combat. So it just looks like the Orc got the better advantage of that with the 94-point win. If the list disappears again, let me know. I'll pull it back up because for some reason it keeps burning the list away when I try to show it to you guys. I don't know. The tab's open. It shows that everything's fine, but it keeps saying you guys can't see it. So then we move on to the second game where he goes into Grey Knights, Warp Bane Task Force. Now, this is his one loss. And Grey Knights have always been one of those things where it's like, oh, someone said it's gone again. So it seems like it goes away whenever I like just change tabs or something like that. So I don't know. I've been doing that since we started the channel. It's never been an issue. So I guess today it's just hating. So Grey Knights have always been one of those kind of annoying matchups for Warhorde because in their original detachment from Index, they get their kind of like if you get close to them, they get to go picked up or they get the reactionary move. And then if you shoot at them, they get to go fly up again. They get uppy downy, so they get to pick like engaging shooting targets on you and not really interact with you. And then their whole army has a 2-up save. In this case, to have Warp Bane Task Force, where it really just makes their offensive damage more reliable. They don't have annoying shenanigans as much, but their amount of damage they can put into you, and then stuff like Castle and Crow, where they can just immediately get to, Kaldor Drago, where they can deep strike +3 to it and then just charge into you, means that they kind of put you on the back foot because they can drop in to shoot you wherever they want you, and then they drop in to charge you wherever they want you. So it's a unit of Kaldor followed by Crow, small unit of Terminators, 2 minimum unit of strike squads, 2 Razorbacks, followed by 2 Inceptor squads, 2 Nemesis Dread Knights, and then 1 Purgation squad, followed by a big brick of Purifiers, which Crow goes with, where he gives another shot. So this is just like the volume of fire. This thing would like pick up your Nobz, for example, pretty drastically. And then Purifiers. So it's just these guys are kind of silly when it comes to their reliability. They get like full rerolls to hit. They get mortal wound potential. So they could pop your battle wagon, or Calcium Crow could just jump down and charge it. The fact that his army's like sitting at all the 2-up armor saves, it really means that anything can whiff because he gets good armor saves against almost anything. If he pops Armor of Contempt, you don't have shooting, so he can really kind of dismantle you as he chooses before you close the distance on him. Squig Hog Boys, for example, just get picked up. If you don't come in from reserve, Ludas don't really have a good target there. Burner Boys have no good targets in that matchup as well. Your Battle Wagon's little Fire Piddly Fire doesn't matter as much anymore. You can use the Battle Wagon, kind of stage up and really choose one spot of the table, but then they kind of choose the other engagements everywhere else and kind of dismantle you. So it's no shame in that. The mission would matter a lot. Like if you were playing Purge the Foe on that, on Grey Knights on mission 2, on day 2 on mission 2, that would be a big problem. So no problem, Vincent, there. But now we move on. So now we move on to game 3. I don't know if you guys can see it now. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm pointing out here. It's not just blank. So we move on to his game 3 against Alex Larkin, which was Astra Militarum, the Hammer of the Emperor. So we have Cadian Command Squad, Gaunt's Ghost, Lehman Russ Tank Commander, and then Militarum Command Squad, and then double Rogel Darn Commanders, followed by 2 Tech Priest Engineers. Dang, boy, you got like 10 characters on this list, man. We got Cadian Shock Troopers, followed by 2 Vanquishers, a Rogel Dorn Battle Tank, 2 Sentinels, and then a big brick of Tempesta Scions. My boy went for he said, nah. He said, no, we can't see. Look at me. I'm right here, guys. I got this. Trust me. Believe in the power of the wall. Here we go. He brought a whole parking lot right here, guys. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, maybe like 8 characters. So he brought a bunch of parking lots, some Sentinels, and then some Gaunt's Ghosts and some Scions. I think that looks cool in the battlefield. Hard to move around the battlefield. In this matchup, it's really about killing his assets and then tagging everything, not letting him park his trucks in the middle of the table, and then just beating the crap out of him. Now, I know in UKTC terrain, that can actually fly. You can actually really crump people on such a big, with such big firing lanes. So it is a good job. Good win there. Can you guys still see? Because I closed it out. I fixed it. Hopefully you can still see. And now we move on to his 4th game, where he has Adeptus Custodi Solar Spearhead. We have double Blade Champion, followed by 2 Telemon Dreadnoughts as characters. Gladius Grav Tank, followed by double Wardens, followed by double Prosecutors, followed by 2 Venatari, and Virtus Praetor, which is cool to see, and then a Witch Seeker. This is just one of those things where people are just bringing all meat, as we can see. Not trying to simplify things, but it just comes down to, do you have enough damage to kill me? Do you have the multiple activations to kill me? Do you have OC or a lot of units? If you do, those are the ways you can kind of beat me, which means they're playing a very linear game. As custodes, they kind of walk up to you, they want to plant some of the objectives, they want to see if they can tank it, and then when are they popping their field note pains? Their grav tanks do allow you to allow them to pop trucks, but they don't pop battle wagons, which is a really good thing. The Venatari means that you do need to take board presence kind of early with kind of like trash, right? Move stuff up the field, maybe advance your Grats out, maybe one of your Storm Boys units goes out. I jumped off to the side. Hopefully that doesn't mean you guys can't see nothing. Maybe you guys can't see nothing. Maybe the Weird Boy unit jumps up just to take space, because these guys get the ability to rapid ingress for free on their data sheet, which means you can have 2 Venatari units ingress, and then whatever other unit they decided to put in ingress as well. So they can end up ingressing 3 different units in one turn, therefore kind of controlling the space around your battle wagon, because a lot of the time your battle wagon is your focal point for the middle of the table and everything wants to disembark and want you there. In this case, you need to control the spaces on the outside. That way Venataris aren't getting good ingresses. You do also need to worry about when you go to charge and commit into any of these units that they're going to ingress, for example, close to their own units, and then provide a heroic intervention for themselves. So in some cases, depending on the mission, kind of prolonging the game to scoring out secondaries and not hurrying to contest them on objectives can be the way to play. But in this case, very different take on his matchups. I don't know how this plays out necessarily on the UKTC terrain. I know some of the objectives can be quite in the open, but some of them seem like you just kind of wall line each other and then come out and kind of crump each other. So do Wardens, Blade Champ? Yeah, but Wardens always go hard with their Blade, because then they get advanced charge once per game and stuff like that. So a little bit of cat and mouse here, where you can't let them take a chunk out of your actual tough assets. Now, if you can get them to somehow, pop, their field no pain early, that'd be good. But in reality, they're going to pop it in the fight phase, which means it's really up to you to kind of get more damage out in other phases. If you're going to tank shock them, if you're going to shoot them. Bomb squigs, I guess they hurt a little bit, but remember, they have feel no pains. Clearly the feel no pains in this detachment. Maybe not. So nonetheless, this is easier said than done as a matchup, because it really does come down to the execution of the opponent player. And like I said, I would be interested in what this mission was, because it was a 68-point win. That's why I brought up the fact that, it seems as though he wasn't really hyper aggressive in this matchup. It could have been that he was simply just scoring the bare minimum each turn, in just contesting and flipping a primary for the flipping it maybe in the middle instead. So let's say, again, you could use the Terraform for this one, where you hold your own, you hold the one on your home, and then you just contest the enemies and occasionally contest the one in the middle, because he just kept the score so close that it just makes me think that you weren't going for primary of this game, really focusing on the secondaries. So great job we're playing that one out, since they had 68-point win there. Very cunning get right there. I like to note what mission that was, because look at right here underneath Vincent, this guy Sebastian, he got a 35-point win. I don't think I've ever seen that before, a 35-point win. But then we got Oliver Campbell with a 100-point win, right? So I'm like, what was happening? And then this other Imperial Knight player right here, 82, and then this other one above him, 82 on that mission. So was it I'm just thick and chill, right? And I just don't, I wonder what mission that was. So we move on to his last game, which was against the champions of Russ, the Space Wolves, which I always slept on, right? So we got Bjorn the Fell-Handed, which is the bane of an Orc's existence. My boy sits around, gives us aura of an additional CP to spend, and then plus he's just an annoying git himself, with his feel no pains and just straight up data sheet. We got Captain Logan Gribnar, and then Ulrich the Slayer. Assault Intercessor Squad. Oh, I can't see anything. Why is it doing? It seems like whenever I just barely move anything one tab over, like someone said in chat, it just is destroying it. I don't know why it started to do that. It's never done it before. But thanks for telling me, chat. Like I said, he has Bjorn right here, but not Bjorn, but not Bjorn. See, I learned you get. A unit of blood calls. Haven't seen blood calls in a hot minute, boy. So then we move on to an intercessor squad, followed by an impulsor, a rhino, three jump back intercessor squads as 5-mans, a scout, followed by 2 vindicators, and then 2 big 10-man breaks of Wolfen. Love to see that. Pretty awesome. Wolfen do get their fight on death. They're pretty fast. So imagine they're I think move 8 inches. They get their invulns as well. They get a feel no pain. A little bit harder to dislodge than you expect to see, and they're T5. 2 vindicators, which do kind of bother orcs sometimes, just because if you're in combat with them, they get to keep shooting you. A lot of the time, I like when my blast vehicles can't shoot me anymore. Champions of Rust of Self is just really based off the execution of the character himself. Can he get to the pilot himself? Can he get to your characters to kind of activate his abilities? And it's really just a battle of sustain versus sustain. And in this case, he's just a little too elite, in my opinion, and squishy at the same time. So stuff that's going to fight on death is going to be able to trade out with a lot of different units, or just bring down his elite units down with him. So 84-point win there for Mr. Vincent Stein, and his awesome response to the UK Super Major GT, going 4-1, getting 41 first at the Manchester Super Major. So with his War Horde list being cunning, I felt like he had a lot of a lot of tools here, because he had a loan out, he had a redeploy unit with not only the Snick Route, but also with the Weird Boy. Multiple units that he could have used for reserves for rapid ingress targets. A little bit of guns between his Ludas, his burner boys, and then his battle wagon having the mech. Also, the mech could continue to play the game by giving a dread +1 to hit. So the dread is hitting on 2s, possibly critical 5+s. In that case, it becomes way more respectable than when it's hitting on 2s with no sustain, or even just sustain 6s. So if you pop Unbridled Carnage, give the mech +1 to hit, I can see the Death Dread actually being a threat for a bunch of damage 3 running around the battlefield. So I love to see it. Really off the wall list here with his list. Therefore, I really wanted to show it and feature it. Of course, we know a data slate's coming out. Therefore, we have no idea what's going to change here. We don't know if Squigs come down. We don't know if Death Dreads come down. We don't know if Breaker Boys go up and Tank Busters go up. So it was a nice change that he had none of the new data sheets, yet he performed really well with some of the old classics and a little bit of different synchronization and tools on his list that we just don't get to see all the time. So great job by Calum. Not much more to say about that. Other than that, war for the War Horde. So the last thing I want to end on, oops, I think I did this. It's still not showing you guys anything. Is I want to go over a couple of the 8-man teams event lists. You guys can see something now, right? It should be the 8-man's team events hosted by Away Games. That should be what's on your screen now. So, let me get rid of some of these tabs. So we're going to go over the orc list, some of these orc lists that end up doing a little bit well here. I'm not going to go over their paths to victories completely, because it's teams and it's a little bit lopsided and stuff. But we are going to look at these lists real quick. I didn't make presentations for them, so we're just going to slide up down them and take a nice look. First off, we have the best orc of the event, which was Mr. Mork Perry, going 4-0-1, getting a nice draw in there with his really weird tactical brigade list. So my git was out here playing Hero Hammer, and we did have a little bit of a talk about it after. So he went triple Big Mac. Yes, the Big Mac, the new one from the new kit. He has Morked Cunning and then Gob Boomer. I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then he has the Big Mac and Mega Armor, of course, with Mech Captain, triple Big Mac with Shock Attack Gun, a Death Killer War Trek, and then Zagrat Wartsnaga. My get went crazy with the Hero Hammer today. 2 units of Storm Boys, followed by a truck, 1 battle wagon, 1 big brick of Flash Kits, 1 big brick of Gretchen, 1 minimum size unit of Gretchen. and then 3 minimum size unit of Ludas, followed by 3 tank busters, and then a big brick of war bikers. All right. So just to break out some of his thoughts here and the combos that went together. Tank busters and shock attack guns went in the battle wagon, posted up near the center for a big death ball. Then, of course, we have Zagra Warzenegger because Mark Perry loves Zagra, as do I. The Death Killer Wartrike was a new feature on this list. Of course, it was to go out, put some pressure, good OC, do orders, all ability to fall back, shoot and charge. At the end of the day, he liked it. Obviously, he still did well with it. He did end up saying, though, that the Morkanot was something that he missed, and he thinks that the Morkanot instead of the biker unit might be a good change on this list, or something that he goes back to. So you're free to try it with the trike, try it without a trike, see what you like. But a lot of the time people are talking about bikers, talking about squigs, but they haven't really been experimenting with them because they just simply want to shoot the DACA and play with the elite infantry. There's so much different tools that you can take advantage of in Tactical Brigade. Definitely advise people still experiment. And then talking about experimenting, he went crazy. So these triple big mechs are pretty much another evolution of the SWAT teams. So he takes a big mech and he sticks them with the 5-man units of Ludas, and bam, that's his SWAT team. He really is just about the fact that the big mech can give them +1 to hit and then +1 strength. So the Ludas still go in there with strength 5 or strength 6 on the wall. If they have to fight, of course, he has his driller for his damage 3. And then in reality, the shooting is interesting because you have the big mech with his custom Mega Blaster, plus the Luda Spanner with his custom Mega Blaster, and then you have the Luda shots themselves from the Def Guns. So you have about 6 custom Mega Blaster shots, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, and then you have the Def Storm guns hitting on 5s, re-rolling 1s. But in reality, if someone's on an objective, you're just re-rolling the whole hit roll. So it really comes into like erasing Marines, erasing other low armor save, even tough, whether it's demons or Xenos units, can still get kind of picked up by this. So he said a lot of the time, even if you lose 4 Ludas, for whatever reason it is, the Spanner and the Big Mech themselves are the value because they're the custom Mega Blaster guns, and then the Spanner himself is just trying to get stuck in. So he just uses these Big Mechs as SWAT teams really, really cheap. They run in, they punch, they shoot before they punch you. If you're on an objective, they go contest you and deal with you. So there it is. And he swore by it, and his results showed that they did something. So haven't tried it. I've heard of it, but my Git took triple of it. So that was pretty fun and exciting to see. Then we move to, my Git, John Anto. So we showed this my Git from he's been on the channel before. He's in a Discord everywhere. Shout out to you, good supporter. And we did fix our list together. So he was an actual fix our list contestant, and he ended up going 4-1 as well. Pretty cool to see. But John himself could do 4-1. So fix my list was just a fun thing that we got to do together. But John himself has proven that he's an excellent orc pilot. So we have Tactical Brigade. We have a Beast Boss, followed by a Big Mech and Mega Armor, double Big Mech with shock attack guns, a War Boss, a Weird Boy with Mork's Cunning, and then Zod Grout Warzenegger. We have a Beast Boss, followed by a 20-man unit of boys, 3 5-man units of Storm Boys, 2 trucks, a 10-man unit of Flash Kits, 2 5-man unit of Flash Kits, a 20-man unit of Gretchen, 2 minimum size units of Gretchen, 1 Commando unit, and then 2 tank buster units. So we wrote this list and fixed our list together. And of course, whenever I do fix my list, I actually talk to the person before I show you guys and fix my list. So if you want to participate in that, of course you can too. You should be on the lookout for that. But the idea behind this is that you have Zod and you have a bunch of boys. Really, everything can be safely deployed in this list, nice and early. And then when it comes for pressuring, you have commandos to secure spots for your weird boy to jump your boys up the field. You have just so much guns to keep your enemy honest between the Big Mech shock attack guns and the Big Mech and Mega Armor. And then on top of that, you have the Beast Boss for the anti-vehicle 4+, and then the fact that you can use him outside of the wall means you have some punching potential outside of the wall. His devastating wounds, of course, feel fantastic. And then the War Boss, he has Golf Boomer so that when his brick is jumping around, he can yell at other people if it's not time for him to get off. In reality, it's on your staging for the wall to go off typically on turn 3 if you can, sometimes turn 2. and you just stick 20 boys and Zod with orders, with everything else behind them, with stealth and cover as well. Throw a bunch of OC up the field, maintain pressure, and play kind of like more of a mob-ish version of Tactical Brigade. We've seen this a couple times. One of the funny things you could do is the weird boy, when he gives his unit +1 to hit, you can add banger and precision someone out the field. Shout out to Brandon. So love to see that. And so then we move on because John Anto is our get to another list. Oops, I'm going the wrong way every time I do this. Oops, you didn't see none of that. Yeah, love the amount of DACA, right? And then we have Seth Oster. So I think this is Seth the Mad Doc, which surprising we've actually never spoke before. So I believe this is Seth the Mad Doc. So he has Tactical Brigade. He has 2 Beast Bosses, Big Mech in Mega Armor with Mech Captain, triple Big Mech with Shotgun Attack Gun, a War Boss. You have 2 Beast Snagga units. I love the Beast Bosses and Beast Snaggas in my Tactical Brigade too. Having Strength 6 and Volume feels really, really nice. And then the fact that you can punch outside of the wall feels good. Everything else is trying to punch. So, hey, 4 5-man units of Storm Boys. That's what really hasn't been explored, in my opinion, enough. The Storm Boys have been used more. We have seen 10-man units, but 4 5-mans is one of those things where you're like, what are you really doing with that 4th one? So Seth, let us know. We have 4 trucks, followed by 1 Breaker Boy unit, 1 big brick of Flash Gits, 1 minimum size unit of Gretchen, and 3 Tank Busters. Bam! Nice and succinct. You can see that he has all these scoring units of Storm Boys and trucks, and then everything else is just straight damage. I like that. Kept it clean, and it's a diverse damage. So shout out to Seth the Mad Doc. Oh, I don't know why I keep going the wrong way every single time. And then we have, last but certainly not least, Mr. Steven Pamprine. So I think his team ended up winning the entire event, United Midwest Project. So he ended up going 1, 3, and 1. So let's take a look at his list. Of course, you can actually see Steven play on Tactical Tortoise live. So I suggest you just check them out on our Discord, and you go to streaming channel, and you can actually check out. We have a bunch of we have a channel just for we share links for streams. No one talks in it, and you can just easily find the stream day and find his games, so you can watch him actually use this in real time. Tactical Tortoise was super hyped about watching the Orks played in real life. I don't think people really understand how awesome Orks are to see when they're played at like a high level. How cunning we get and how we look on the battlefield. So shout out to Steven for performing. So we have a boss, Snake Rot, followed by a beast boss and more cunning. Big Mech and Mega Armor, followed by 2 Big Mechs with shock attack guns, a solo mech, and then a war boss. He has a 20-man unit of Beast Snagga Boys, which he typically throws into a battle wagon at some point. Then we have 2 10-man units of Storm Boys. Something we've seen is that he starts the game with Storm Boys in here inside of this battle wagon and the mech. Then he will disembark the Storm Boys and the mech. The mech will give the Storm Boys an order, and then the Storm Boys will run out and do something. And then the Beast Snagga Boys will then embark into the battle wagon, and then the battle wagon will move. Followed, and then we have, and sometimes he would put the other 10-man unit into reserves, or he would, you've seen him in real time use this for secret missions and end up scoring a secret mission and winning the game with putting his battle line in the enemy side of the battlefield. So great job there. We have the 10-man unit of Flash Kits, followed by a 5-man unit of Flash Kits. One thing that Steven did that I liked a lot, as you can see on his list, he has no dedicated transport. He was really taking advantage of reserves a lot. Now, it does become matchup dependent and layout dependent on when you should reserve and how and such like that. But I think Ork players do not use strategic reserves nearly enough. So we definitely should, and I'm probably going to have to do a video on that pretty soon. So 5-man unit of Flash Kits, followed by a minimum size unit of Grots, 5-man unit of Nobz, followed by 2 Tank Busters, a War Biker unit, a Battle Wagon, and then 2 trucks. Again, we see the War Bikers, right? So War Bikers, they just are cool to go run out and touch an actual expansion. They don't simply just fall over something like a Storm Boy or a Grot or like a unit of boys. They're T6. They got a 4 armor save. They have the Knob with 4 wounds, so he can tank some weird damage on him. Of course, he can get stealth and cover. So a lot of the time, that's what happened. He gave himself in cover and he's put him on there and he was like, all right, shoot me. What are you going to shoot me with? Last cannons? Sure. So it's pretty sick. And I like that Mork and Steven were both taking advantage of bikers. And I think a lot of different gits should get motivated and start getting creative like that. So shout out to you, successful gits, and all of the other guys at the ATC that were doing, outside the 8-man team event that were also doing well. So we know that the Ork data slate's coming out soon. We're getting a lot of info on that. So stay tuned. This Friday, I'm going to talk about what we might hope to see and expect from that. And we've got our new terrain in. We got all the stuff we've been working on. So new content is coming in waves here soon, and look forward to it. This is the rise of the green tide that we've all been waiting for. Thank you all the support to get us to 5K. And of course, check out all of our sponsors and everything in the description, because we have really felt your support and it means a lot, and it helps the WAAAGH keep growing. Speaking of the 5K, I'll just say this, I'm not even being biased. Patreon is so low that if you're there, you're going to do great there. So Battle Wagon for that giveaway is on the way. Of course, we have giveaways for members and for the Patreons as well. So hope to see you guys around. And then I'll answer this. I'll answer this rodeo because you caught me at a good time right when I was closing. What I will say is a lot of people in 40K get a little worked up about leaks because they think that it gets people hyped for no reason, and then lets them down. It leads to like misinformation and false expectations. But in my opinion, we're all big kids playing with toys to a certain extent, right? Getting surprised or excited or worked up about the possibilities is what we do half of the time as Ork players. That it is, we look at weird combos, we look at weird data sheets, we look at weird matchups, and we're like, can I make my burner bomber work, right? So it's like, hearing about rules that might come into play is just another food for us to talk about that day, around the water jug. As for how much of that would be real, that's something that I think everybody's a little cautious about, as some of the things leaked seem a bit too strong, and almost like GW is shooting themselves in the foot again, which is something they love to do. They love to just simply forget about rules they don't like, and then they give it back to the armies they shouldn't. So having shooting orcs has always been like scary for the 40K community as a whole. So if those are true, that's weird. And I like to think the truth is never black and white. It's usually gray. So I'm going to say that it was weird how many were specific to orcs and how major it was. So it makes me like speculative that the majority of them won't be true. But I think that a lot of the time, people will package, the truth in a turd, So it's kind of like there's a little bit of truth probably hidden in there. I don't think anybody should get worked up to the point that they get frustrated if it doesn't happen, and I don't think anybody should be offended by the fact that people are having fun with simply speculating about our toys, right? If it's true, wow, we get a bunch of different new things that we get to talk about. It feels great and something to be excited for, and it was fun to talk about on the way in. If it doesn't come true, then we already have a lot of really cool things that came out, and it was fun to talk about for the brief time. But in short, there's so many new things that we have access to in rules and data sheets and points and data and the detachments that we can make work, that we have plenty of stuff to be excited about and grateful for. So, let's just focus on that. Yeah, your first army was speed freaks. Yeah, I feel you on that. My first army was like all boys, like green tide style. So, we're out there. So let's just have fun, guys. It's all just toys and gets. Don't get worked up if it doesn't happen. But when I heard Bully Boys was double WAAAGH, and I heard that Mega Nobz got 4 Feel No Pain, I didn't believe it. And then I took a lot of smoke for saying that for leaking some of those things or talking about some of those things. And I was like, whatever, I don't even care what you guys have to say, because we're all playing with toys anyway. So with that being said, there's always one thing to keep in mind, is don't cross our wall, because we knock your teeth out. Whoa!